And we are live. Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock, Friday, February 6th. Unfortunately, the site sent us a bit of a hiccup here. 4 games on DraftKings, 6 games on FanDuel. So we've got some major differences going on. We still have a lot of nonsense to sift through coming out of the trade deadline with available players, not to mention just a litany of questionable players still out there. We will break it all down over the next hour and then give way to Greg Ehrenberg at 7:30 for Live After Lock. You guys have been getting that over the past few days, and it is not stopping today. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter at Josh Engleman, at Chris Spags. What's going on, brother?
I'm glad to be here with you. This is a slight change where I get to get a little bit of taste of you on Fridays, which I know sounded very paused, but but I want to get all that sweet Josh Engleman flavor. I watched the strategy shows all week as Josh knows better than anybody. So glad to be here with you to close out the week. And the slate itself, I'm just confused by what DraftKings is doing this week with, the $8 tournament on Fridays, that's normal. The $50K on Friday, I get why they're doing that because of some of the fill rate stuff lately. But this week they've been doing, in the past couple weeks, it's been 10 game slate, 9 game slate, 12 game slate. Why are we back to 4? Like just pick one and do it. If they're testing, I get it. You got to do testing as any company. Very important thing to do. But like, I like short slates more than you do, but I just don't get it. Just stick with one and that's cool.
I don't like going down to 4 when you don't have to. Like 6 was fine. They're 10 o'clock starts. If it was like 10:30, fine, I guess. But come on, this was not. Like, keep it at 6. Don't go any smaller than 6 if you can. It's annoying.
That's what she said.
Well, luckily for me, I don't have to worry about it. Right on the number, baby. Stuck the landing. I pushed. Oh, that's a fun way to start the show. That feels like 2018 all over again.
Throwback Fridays here on Stokastic.
It is a throwback because $4,300 Mitchell Robinson is 60-something% owned. That feels a couple years ago. In this case, we've got a lot of weird stuff to break down today. I'm going to set the table right now with the injury designations that we have not yet rectified. We've got Karl Anthony Towns doubtful. OG Anunoby is questionable. Jalen Duren is questionable. Micah Potter's questionable. Quentin Jackson's questionable. Gary Harris is questionable. Julius Randle is questionable. Blake Wesley, Denny Avdia, Slow-Mo, Scottie Pippen Jr. Lots of Q tags still hanging out there. Lots of guys not available yet. Let's start at the top with all of it. We have one main chalk piece who could look even better, I guess, if Anunoby ends up out. How are you managing a $4,300 Mitchell Robinson today?
I'm getting them a lot. Honestly, I think if I were not being, somewhat cautious about exposures lately, at least wanted to be backed out, with an optimal rate, with, getting a certain amount of sim exposure that aligns with, guys scoring 5x, 6x, that kind of thing. I think for Mitchell Robinson, he'd be like a 100% play for me if I were just playing a little bit more loose with things. But I think, with how it looks right now, he looks to me to be a player that should be in about 70% of lineups in general. I think he's going to 5x in the slate based on that projection 80% of the time. And the fact, too, that he's produced 1.1 fantasy points per minute this year with Towns off the court and also McBride, for as much as that might matter for him. It's just a good spot for him to be in overall. The matchup itself, maybe not so much, but getting Duren on a game time decision after he left yesterday's game, probably not getting the best of Duren if he's in. And then if Duren's not in, the backup centers there will keep Mitchell Robinson still close enough to the rim, able to do what he does best. So on a slate like this one, which isn't great value, I feel like Mitchell Robinson to me is a very easy plug and play and just not even worry about it.
Got a couple things wrong there. That injury report didn't have updated. Karl Anthony Towns already out. Julius Randle already in. So apologies for those whiffs as I walked through that information. Didn't change. Towns is still doubtful on the injury report. So apologies, everybody. Apologies. There's some grossness to talk about after that because once we dodge Mitchell Robinson, it flattens out. We've got a... While we still have guys that are grabbing a little bit of ownership, this is only a 4-game slate on the DraftKings side. So to only have one guy really breaking free, then we get to Jeremiah Fears in the 30s, Randall, Jaylen Brown at 33, and then everybody else is sub 30. strikes me as an interesting 4-game slate for places you could want to take a stand. But the interesting part after that is we only have 3 guys on this slate that are 9K or higher. Cade Cunningham's getting 15% ownership. I mentioned Jaylen Brown previously. He's at 9,700. Anthony Edwards at 9,500. Both guys in the 25 to 30% range. What's your preferred pay up option on this slate? I'm finding it hard to figure out the angles right now.
I mean, Jaylen Brown, I think, is the one that I feel the best about. I don't love that you're getting, Vucevic into that rotation at all, because it does mean, as you discussed at length on the strategy show this morning, like you're getting somebody in who's going to get more usage up, be more productive generally than Luka Garza was. So just a few less stats to go around. But the fact you are getting the gigantic pace up matchup, which looks awful for Miami on the other side, getting the pace down, but for Boston, pretty decent total. You're getting the extra possessions on paper. And Jaylen Brown, I think, is the only guy that I have on the slate over 50 fantasy points. Stokastic has him a little bit lower, so I get why, he might not come up as much. But even with him being a 48-point projection, that's getting you 33% ownership for Stokastic. So I feel like for Jaylen Brown, kind of, to me, a lesser version of what Jalen Johnson was yesterday, where it's like, I think he's the best option here. I know I should consider other guys because you have, Cade you could go to in a Eastern Conference kind of playoff environment against the Knicks. Anthony Edwards going against the Pelicans, really soft matchup, would have looked a lot better if Randall were out. But obviously, even with Randall in, like, he's got the massive ceiling. But I think for Jaylen Brown, just getting that, the pace up in particular, and the fact that you're going to probably get not a lot of limits for Vucevic, and maybe even get less minutes somehow for like a Peyton Pritchard type. I just don't think it's anything bad for Jaylen Brown right now. So he's my guy, but he's also the Fields guy, so it doesn't feel particularly brave.
Yeah, I think the position helps too. Small forward typically going to be a little bit harder to fill. I think Jaylen Brown does stand out in that range. Ant is the weirder one for me, even with Randall in, just because it's the Pelicans. I'm always at least a little bit intrigued. Does that mean that you're going to be a little bit more interested in taking a stand somewhere in this 8K range? Because we've got Julius Randle breaking free in ownership. We've got Ryan Rollins breaking free in ownership. We could talk about that. How much do you have of Ryan Rollins? Should we just start there and get it out of the way now?
I honestly, I was really ready to get less until Kuzma was out. And I feel like at that point, it just makes it a situation where we're taking, a guy has been, I would say, if you watch the Bucks games, and I get why people out there wouldn't want to watch a lot, but Kuzma just brings the ball up, doesn't look at anybody else in the court, gets his shot, or makes a really bad pass out of a double team or something like that. But for having him off, I think it's good for Rollins. Getting him and KPJ in is not a great thing. But Rollins, for me, I do have about 3.5 fantasy points higher than Stokastic does. So I'm getting him in 45% of my lineups. I don't think it's a huge stand, Josh, because the field's at 27% Ryan Rollins. So we all get to be in this together with America's sweetheart, Ryan Rollins, against Indiana.
I'll be honest. When you first started saying that, I thought you were either telling me that you had Ryan Rollins at 3.5 fantasy points per minute or 3.5 fantasy points per minute higher than our rate. And I was like, that seems extreme. That's higher than it should be. No, I don't think that's that's the most reasonable Ryan Rollins projection you've given me in the last week.
Okay, KPJ really hurts it. Like if Portis were out, I think it would have started to get a little bit weird in my data. But Rollins, I think he's just one of those guys where the ceiling is there. The hope is, I guess, that he could start to play more minutes with KPJ. Right now, they're just closing halves out. But yeah, for Rollins, man, I still feel like the ceiling is there based on his usage and what he does assist wise, steal wise, even block wise. Like he does a little bit of everything. But getting KPJ in is just it scares me if I'm going nuts on Rollins with KPJ back in.
I knew you were going to go to Ryan Rollins. I wish I could have filtered him out of there and led you to someone that wasn't going to be Ryan Rollins in this range. Is there another person in this range that isn't Ryan Rollins that catches your eye? Oh, let me think about it. Does any of these teams have anybody out? Brunson?
Brunson, I thought was going to look a little bit better in my data because I had updated stuff when I did my stream on Splash Play this afternoon. Stokastic hadn't put out their update yet for Towns being out, so I just kind of had to fly blind with it, make my best guess. I did have Brunson a little bit higher than he's coming in right now, but at a 43-point projection, he's making almost 20% of my lineups. I do like Brunson, a little bit more than Ant. I like him more than Trey Murphy, more than Bam Adebayo by a really big margin there. Brunson's rates are great with Cat off the court, about 1.4 DK points per minute. And that's, about 820 possessions, if I'm remembering correctly, not 1,000 where we want things to be, but still a, good sample size. So I think for Brunson, wish it were a better matchup. Wish they didn't have endless, tall, rangy wing defenders to throw at him. But yeah, Rollins definitely my guy in that range. But Brunson is number 2.
Yeah, Pistons are really in my eyes, a bad long-term matchup for Brunson. They just got a lot of dudes they can just continually rotate through. Even if they're hacking the shit out of them, they got a bunch of dudes that can take on a couple extra fouls. He does feel, I don't know, he's the guy I would want to take the biggest chance on. Because whether we're talking about Brunson, even if you want to go all the way up to Cade, whether we're talking about Cade, Brunson, Siakam, I mean, Bam's getting no ownership, Murphy's getting no ownership, Derek White's on the same sort of tier, so is Zion. Brunson's the one that feels like, okay, he could just take this over with no Karl Anthony Towns around and potentially a second starter not around. I hate the matchup for him, but opportunity-wise, it's all at his fingertips today. I'm nervous. That matchup stresses me out. It's just a sea of dudes way bigger, longer, and stronger than him. Pause on the longer piece, I guess.
Yeah, and he gets a taste out of all of them today, just like I do with you on Fridays.
I knew you were going to go there.
For Brunson, though, he's one of those guys where, getting the longer defenders on him, I'm just not super worried about it, especially when we're taking Cat out of the equation. I mean, it really did stand out to me that, like, the only guy who's over 1 fast point per minute this year with Cat and McBride off the court is Brunson, besides Hart. Like, Brunson really just take rate upticks and usage and assists in a way that seemingly seemed noteworthy. So I think for me, just he's worth a shot. The fact he's 15% owned, it'd be great if you were single digits, but being half the ownership of Jaylen Brown, who I do like, being 10% less than Anthony Edwards, even being 10% less than Ryan Rollins. Like, I love Ryan Rollins, but if you're taking Brunson over him today, I don't think that's a crazy thing to do.
Ooh, that's how you guys know Jalen Brunson might be a pretty good play for today. If Spags is willing to take Brunson, if that's reasonable to him, there we just got a lot of information right there in that statement. I like where we're at. I do want to hop over to the FanDuel side because the context for all of this is very different. If we're just looking at ownership, Mitchell Robinson is not the top name on this list. That would be Kawhi Leonard. 58% ownership right now in a matchup against the Kings. No James Harden, no Ivica Zubac, no Darius Garland, no Benedict Mathurin. Kawhi Leonard on what seems to be like a pretty steady 30-minute-ish limit right now, but he's the best option that we have on FanDuel, given the rates, given the matchup, given the people that are out for the Clippers. Chris Dunn, similarly, getting a nice little bump with all those Clippers guys not around. Now we get to Mitchell Robinson, center only, 4,300, 40% owned. And again, then we see that step off where we get a couple guys in the 30s and really start to get a little bit more, linear drop. Jaylen Brown standing out a little bit more popular at the top. But remember, we have an extra Kawhi in the mix on the FanDuel side compared to DraftKings. And with the way Kawhi looks, with the way this setup is, that's a really big swing piece that does not exist on the DraftKings slate in comparison to the FanDuel side.
Yeah, Kawhi looks great. I mean, honestly, he's one of those days where I do generally like getting less games on a slate than more. But I like that, for FanDuel today that you do have Kawhi on there because I think he'd be one of their better plays today if we had him on DraftKings. But for Kawhi, I think the big things that stand out for him are that you're getting, an appreciable uptick in usage for having Harden off the court. On the year with no Harden and no Zubac, just to give the full scope there. 38% usage for Kawhi, 27% assist rate. You're talking about killing a lot of possessions between those two rates, and over 1.5 DK points per minute. It's only about 300 possessions this year where he has played without Harden and without Zubac, but Kawhi really has taken upticks a lot this year. And you take one of them off the court, now you're taking both off. Everything should go through him. And for the Clippers too, it's not like a Markkanen situation like yesterday for Utah, where Clippers are trying to make the playoffs. They think they can. They think they can make comparable run with the guys they have now instead of the guys they've given up. So I don't see any usage any reason why Kawhi's usage would go down or like it would get weird for him. So Kawhi, great play. On FanDuel, being in 2/3 of your lineups, I think would not be a crazy amount based on the optimal rate, but he's definitely going to be owned on FanDuel at 58% ownership. But to me, he's just so far and away the best play on FanDuel and would be the best play on the slate overall. It's Sacramento's such a boost for anybody.
Yes, it is. They are a confirmed not very good basketball team. Back to the DraftKings side now. Unsurprisingly, Mitchell Robinson is at the top of the point per dollar list. But he's not the only New York Knicks center at the top of the point per dollar list. Number 2, Ariel Hukporti, flat 3K, 20% owned, 25% optimal. How are you going to balance these two dudes?
Yeah, it's tough because I do think naturally projection wise, they're both just underpriced for the situation they're in with, Hukporti obviously being the guy going to play off the bench, not anywhere near as good of a producer. For Mitchell Robinson, you're talking about 1.1 DK points per minute this year without McBride, without Towns out there. For Hukporti, or really like a fractional amount relatively. But, you do get the leverage as well, where if Mitchell Robinson gets in foul trouble, if he just plays less minutes, like I would expect him to be, maybe 25 to 28 minutes today based on what his highs have been this year. But Stokastic giving him 25 minutes, like you're getting in that scenario, probably 20 minutes for Hukporti. And if you got foul trouble and knocked him down to 20 minutes, then Hukporti could end up playing more theoretically than Mitchell Robinson does. So they're both in play. I don't love how naturally you could get both of them in a lineup because it does feel like there's a push-pull dynamic. But because they're so cheap, I think you can do that a little bit. But I feel like, if I were going to really nickel and dime my lineups today, I think the first thing I might do is just separate out Mitchell Robinson and Hukporti together, just not play them both because you're really committing to I think a particular build when you do that.
Good news is they don't both show up in the optimal lineup for right now. So hurrah. That would be annoying.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to see that because that would just naturally make it come up a little bit more. Let's hit some super chats. Miami Mike gives us 2 nukes, Cade and Hukporti. Speak of the devil. I gave out Cade yesterday on Live Before Lock. He was fine. At least he wasn't bad, I guess. No problem with that Hukporti one, though. All it takes is one quick set of fouls for Mitchell Robinson. Hukporti grabs 2-3 extra minutes. You're feeling pretty good about that at the flat 3K. And then
kind of a classic Eric Lindquist nuke of the night too, where it's like, who's the chalk? The guy that benefits if the chalk somehow fails, which I'm saying that in a positive way, even though maybe it sounded derisive, which you can read whatever you want. I think they both be fair.
KGDR24, FanDuel, best buy position. Let's walk through it here. Point guard is going to be likely Chris Dunn, unless you're attempting to use him at the shooting guard spot. After that, it gets a little busy. Seems like KPJ is probably next up. I'm assuming your number 1 point guard on FanDuel is Ryan Rollins.
Yeah, Ryan Rollins, though, I do think KPJ looks pretty good being $1,200 cheaper on there. And the projections, I think, close enough for sure. I feel like the 3 of Rollins, Dunn, KPJ would be probably my guys at point guard and shooting guard.
Okay. And that I wasn't setting you up for that one with Rollins. He's currently 4th in ownership at point guard. It was he was naturally going to be a bit higher at that point. Unfortunately, shooting guard is... There we go. Shooting guard's the exact same situation. The top guys in ownership at point guard are the same at shooting guard. Chris Dunn, KPJ, Scottie Pippen Jr. if he's in, Ryan Rollins. Cedric Howard sneaks in here, as does Mikal Bridges, both having the small forward eligibility. But the number 1 small forward today with a bullet is going to be Kawhi Leonard. After that, you're getting to the Cowards and Bridges of the world. Anything you want to add there? Did I miss anybody that you would want to point out?
Jaylen Brown's price tag seems a little bit tougher on FanDuel, just not getting the 3-point bonus, I think in particular, but still think a 10K, about a 20% optimal rate, 25% ownership. I feel like he'll be a little bit undervalued at shooting guard and small forward, but I think you covered most of the guys that seem more than optimal enough.
If you didn't have Kawhi Leonard in at small forward, he is perfectly reasonable at power forward as the best option there too. After that, it is 2 dudes and 2 dudes only, and then it falls off a cliff. Julius Randle, Pascal Siakam, both right around 30% owned, 30% optimal. After that, everybody drops by at least 10% in both of those categories. So at power forward, if you're looking for the best options, assuming Kawhi Leonard is in at small forward, it's Julius Randle and Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, I'm not a big Zion guy this year because I feel like he's deferring a lot to the other guys who also produce pretty well per minute, and the Pelicans are still not good. But Zion on FanDuel, optimal rate being about 5% higher than his ownership. I don't hate that, even though I personally just don't have Zion super well projected this year in general.
You know who else isn't a big Zion guy this year? Zion. He lost a lot of weight.
He is a much smaller version of himself than before. Apparently, he's 12% body fat, which I don't know if I'd guess that looking at him, but that's what
Is that in
agent
metric?
said, trainer or something like that.
Was that like kilometers? I don't think that we're measuring that in the same way.
It says diameter in feet. That's actually what it was.
Yeah.
Thought it was body fat.
Did they not tear the scale? Did they press like grams or something? Some of the numbers are wrong in that equation. If he's 12, trust me, I think it's much lower than what it was before. 12's low, dude.
Yeah, I mean, that's what stood out to me when I saw that number, because I'm like, and it was a photo that I think it was an agent or a trainer that posted of him like flexing too. So he does look like he's definitely more cut in his arms than he was.
Sure.
But like 12% is pretty lean. Like, I don't know what 12% looks like though. Like, I know what 8% looks like, because I feel like, a lot of wrestlers go around, 8 to 10% body fat. 12 feels like it's leaner than Zion, but why would they make up that number? It's like, that'd be a crazy number
I don't know.
to lie about.
Maybe he had 12% of his body fat removed. Maybe. Could that be it? That might be a thing. Anywho, center on FanDuel, Mitchell Robinson in 40% of lineups and 40% optimal. You can sneak Pascal Siakam in there as well. After that, it kind of falls off. One guy that you're likely not going to be playing at center is going to be Ariel Huckporty. It's just a different vibe on FanDuel. Not the same sort of thing as a flat 3K guy on DraftKings.
Yeah, I feel like Cardwell would be the dumpster dive center you can get to, if not Mitchell Robinson. Yeah. And that's like a direct price point pivot. So I don't think it's a terrible matchup for him compared to Mitchell Robinson in his situation. But, Cardwell just got paid. That's probably got to help him out a little bit.
So we're sort of waiting out the Boston, Miami, and Knicks Pistons news to hit at top of the hour. And then we'll get some sort of projections and ownership update at that point. So we obviously talked a little bit about Ryan Rollins prior to this. Who else on today's slate is a Spags guy?
So I'm actually curious your thoughts on this one, because this guy's coming up for me, and I have questions about it, at least the way that Stokastic laid out the minutes. And usually, I always defer to Stokastic minutes, but I did observe one weird thing with the Bucks big man rotation. So we got right now Pete Nance getting 20 plus minutes in Stokastic data, getting 21 minutes flat. Jericho Sims, Stokastic has getting 9.6. But the last game, and it's really the last game and a half, because they switched the second half of the game before last. It's been Pete Nance is backing up the 4. So he's been backing up Kyle Kuzma. So today I assume that's Portis starting. He's backing up he's backing up Portis like he was backing up Kyle Kuzma. But then Sims has been getting, all the minutes that Miles Turner's not getting. So I feel like the minutes are a little bit high for Pete Nance and a little bit low for Jericho Sims. Not that I want to play Sims, but it does make me worry about my Nance exposure, because he's coming up at like 20% plus of my lineups, and I'm just not buying that he's going to get all that run with having Bobby Portis back in.
I mean, prior to those two games with Portis out, 20 minutes for Nance, 18 minutes for Nance, Sims essentially DNPs in both of those. I'm of the opinion that the Nance projection looks good. I think 20 minutes looks about right for him. Certainly has the opportunity to catch an extra minute or two if anything goes wrong with Turner. I think Sims is going to be largely out of the mix. I wouldn't be surprised to see him play less than those 11 minutes, actually.
Okay, so that's a different view than I had, because to me it felt like Sims minutes going up. Like it's not like they needed him to play those minutes. They could have gone. I mean, I guess you had to fill in the Portis minutes, but they were kind of already doing that with moving Kuzma to the 4. I just sit out as one thing where I'm like, I'm not all the way there, but my projection for Nance is like 4.5 points higher than Stokastic. So I hope that those minutes are correct. He's been good lately. Like he has been good. I would felt a lot better about him if Portis were out entirely.
He looks a little sneaky too. We've got some positive leverage on there, not pulling any ownership whatsoever. Interesting option if you want to go to like Pete Nance instead of Huckporty or something. Comparable dudes at a very different point where don't really have a ton of confidence in either one of them, realistically. Anunoby being out would change that up a little bit. But yeah, I'm team Pete Nance today. I don't mind that at all. Now that I'm looking at the numbers and stuff. Yeah.
Easily a top 3 value. And I mean, and facing Indiana too, with them being now a Huff/questionable Micah Potter crew. Like, not that Isaiah Jackson was anywhere near as good as he was before his injuries and all that. But he still is a guy that, can rim protect a little bit, can do some stuff. So just getting that even weaker at center, probably not bad for Nance, whether he's the center or the 4.
Just so I play LOR high, that is absolutely not what that tweet said. I would recommend reading that again. Zubats and Kobe Brown, not going to be playing today.
They're not
that
with
would
the
be
team,
Tuesday.
I think.
Yeah. Tuesday is the real key word in that tweet. So
that's just reading comprehension. I see the tweet now. Zubats, Kobe Brown could make Pacers debut on Tuesday. So yeah, that's pretty clearly not today.
Yeah, it wasn't even like will make their debut Tuesday. It wasn't even like it's happening to. It was maybe Tuesday. So even if Tuesday was today, it's still maybe.
But yeah, maybe he read Tuesday as today, and like you're just skimming it, and you didn't go all the way through, which it's still a bad error. But if I'm going to give grace, that's why I would give that.
Time is nothing but a construct, man. Who days are just made up.
It's flat circle.
Are we right?
Yeah,
something like that. I could do this all day, honestly. Okay, so who else you got as a Spags guy? Or if you want to take the question in the opposite direction, who isn't a Spags guy today?
Oh, who isn't? Okay, so who are the own guys I'm not getting to? Who's really not one, and I get why people are going to go there, but I just don't think the rates back it out, and I don't think what he does necessarily makes me like him more. Aaron Nesmith, if the field's there at about now 24% owned. Earlier today, it looked like it was going to be about a third of the field being there. Actually, no, it's at 30% ownership. My bad. I'm just low on him across the board. He's only about a 0.85 fantasy point per minute guy this year with Mathurin off the court. So it's not really like he's gaining a lot there. His minutes get more secure. Like last year in the playoffs, you might remember guys like Mathurin taking minutes away. If he got hot, he would eat minutes away from Nesmith. If Nesmith played poorly, you'd get Mathurin coming in a little bit more. But that's not really the case as much these days. So I don't think he's gaining. He'll gain a few minutes, but I don't think he's gaining a whole lot in opportunity. Really the one that I think is going to be like gain the most, and I also wish I were getting to, but I'm not, is Andrew Nembhard. I feel like he's the guy that has had the real ceiling. He's gained the most historically for having Mathurin off. But Aaron Nesmith, the field's going to play him a lot, and I think it's to be a little bit of an error because I just don't think he gains as much as the field's going to think he gains from having Benedict Mathurin off the team.
I agree with your thought process here, but I'm going to pose you a follow-up, and I think it'll lead us to a good discussion. I have now filtered by small forward and sorted by ownership. Aaron Nesmith is the second highest owned guy at small forward, 27%. Everybody else is sub 20 once we throw out Jaylen Brown, who we've already discussed. Where do you want to go here then if it's not Aaron Nesmith? Who stands out to you as one of these guys that are just kind of like not getting talked about, middle of the pack, rando dudes?
Let me see. So at small forward, I mean, Jaylen Brown getting there more. He is right now in 40% of my lineups, which is not like a huge stand relative to the field being at 33, but he's taken up a lot of my small forward spots. That helps make that decision a bit easier. And then I still have, Nesmith in 15% of lineups. That's taking another bit of that small forward away, which is under the field, but yeah, not full fading him or anything. I think for me, I mean, if I were making the choice, as opposed to just grabbing whatever my best ROI lineups are, I feel like getting more of Josh Hart, I think would be okay. Mikal Bridges would be okay. Herb Jones would be okay. I guess the big thing for me is I don't think Nesmith is a better play than those guys. I think the Herb Jones, Bridges, Josh Hart, going down to McDaniels, Norm Powell, I'd rather roll the dice with the field versus what seems like more ownership for Nesmith than I think he deserves.
I think Josh Hart stands out, especially right now because OG Anunoby has just been ruled out. Josh Hart, in games that Brunson has played with Anunoby and Towns off the floor, 1.21 fantasy points per minute in 246 minutes. Bit of a usage bump, bit of a scoring bump, bit of a rebounding bump. Mikal Bridges also goes up about a tenth of a fantasy point from 0.94 to 1.06. Sees a bit of a usage bump as well. I think both Hart and Bridges they're obviously going to look a little bit better just by our updates from him being out. But Josh Hart having shooting guard, small forward eligibility, I really like that flexibility. Similarly, I like the idea of Jaden McDaniels, just given where the ownership is going right now to Randall. Obviously people are going to be getting to Ant. Feels like McDaniels is a little slept on. If he happens to have a big day, probably looks a little bit better and is taking a bite out of some of that Randall ownership if you have him. And then, realistically, I could see Asar Thompson grabbing a couple extra minutes in this matchup if it's tight and he's not getting in foul trouble. He'd be another guy I'd be willing to take a flyer on just for what the matchup is. If they can get 28, 29 minutes out of him guarding Brunson, I think they would want to do that if they could.
Yeah, I agree. And I like Hart. I'm glad that came up when it did, because Hart's going to move up a lot for me when we get the minutes coming in. And as the chat's pointing out, Duren also out now. So we're getting the guys that we really needed to know, at least in the first game.
Yeah, do you want to talk through the hypothetical Detroit stuff right now?
Yeah. I mean, people are not going to be happy to go back to Isaiah Stewart, but that's going to be the move.
Or I would posit is the move now $4,100 Paul Reed.
I love Paul Reed. I love B-ball Paul. Enjoyed the good times we've had with him this year when he's had the Pistons being out everybody. He's been a great producer. It's been tough for him with these games with Duren out, with Stewart's available, because he seems to lose amidst the Stewart at every turn, and that's not great. But I think for Paul Reed, if he starts, and I suppose he could, I'd feel better about it. Off the bench, I think he would still maybe project well enough to make lineups, but I just wouldn't have the confidence. I feel like Paul Reed, I need to know he's starting, and even then be prepared emotionally from the jerk his minutes around, because Stewart just is such a better defender and kind of fits what they're trying to do more.
18 minutes of Paul Reed at 1.19 fantasy points per minute is 21.4 fantasy points. At 4,100, that's 5.2x value. At the moment, that would be the fourth best point per dollar option on the slate. It's going to be Paul Reed, assuming Paul Reed gets 18 minutes in this projection, a reasonable backup rate, I think. He's probably going to be 20% owned, something like that. Something in that neighborhood.
Safely behind Mitchell Robinson, I think, no matter what.
By the way, speaking of the Knicks, Brunson, Bridges, Hart, Diawara, Robinson.
They love starting Diawara. He doesn't do anything out there, but they love putting him in, and you go let me get a little Diawara, and he just does nothing. But okay.
Pull the Knicks up here. Diawara, 3,300. Realistically, we're not going to be talking about, right?
No, I mean, he's cheap enough that he's a pivot to the Nance ownership that's going to be there. Pivot to Huck Porty theoretically, but he's not that great of a producer, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be worried about him right now. I'm really excited to see the Detroit projections. I guess, realistically, we're going to take Beef Stew up to, let's just say 29 minutes for right now to be mildly pessimistic. 25.8 fantasy points per minute, or 25.8 fantasy points, 4,900, 5.2x. Yeah, I think those guys are probably going to come in around the same-ish, somewhere in that 15-20% owned range. And I like both of those.
I find Stewart interesting because I got him in so many lineups yesterday, and I was like, how did he get into everything? Or not in everything, but he got to 25, 30% of my lineup, somewhere in that range. And I do think a lot of people got that same effect yesterday from when the guys got ruled out. People are, I feel, going to be a little bit lower on Stewart today, because even with NBA DFS being a smaller field now, you still get a lot of people that are gun shy about those guys sucked yesterday. I saw it some in the chat before. I think Stewart, you're probably getting a little bit more of a discount ownership wise than you would get normally, just because he was so bad yesterday.
Mike Doherty, I appreciate you going to bat for Diawara, but he has taken 48 threes in the NBA. I'm not going to worry too much about him being a 40% three-point shooter just yet, but hasn't been bad. I agree.
50% from the free throw line, though. So that's
3 for 6. 3 for 6. So we should get an update imminently. So if you haven't yet, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. That helps us out a ton. But let's run that like number up. Let's show Greg Ehrenberg a big old like total when he gets here for live after lock, because he's going to take you guys all the way through 7:30. He's going to run some late swaps if that's possible. He's certainly going to be hitting the prop tool and looking to get some bets down after Spags and I bail here. So get that guy some likes. Celtics will start White, Brown, Hauser, Garza, Cada. I did not expect them to play those dudes together, and I talked about it today.
Yeah. So is Luka Garza now the better player than Vucevic? Is the chat from this morning on your show correct that he's starting and Vucevic isn't? So I think he might be.
I think this is just telling us that they really want Vooch to be the backup center, and I think this is a test for Garza, is my guess. But we'll see.
Honestly, he can't be worse than the bullshit they've been running out at the 4. Like I'm tired of the rotating 4 spot for the Celtics. Like he's not a good defender. I get it. Like guys like Hugo can at least stick with guys, and Minot they got rid of, but he at least was like a hustler, did some stuff. Garza's let's see how it does. I'm curious. It's interesting. I appreciate them trying something.
That's a weird lineup. I'd pull it up on screen and show everybody, but they played like 24 minutes together or something so far this year, so it's not even really worth it. I can't imagine this changes anything on the Boston side. Nobody was going to get to Shireman either way. Vooch is 7,600. That seems impossible. Cada's already not owned. Garza's 4,400. Even giving him 20 minutes isn't really going to be worth it given what we already have at center. So I think that's probably much ado about nothing now that news came out.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it should incrementally hurt like the key Celtics guys just because Garza is going to be a better producer than, again, the guys they put out there for that 5th spot normally. But I also feel like they could pull the plug on him pretty fast too if it just isn't working right. So
yeah, I mean, they're going to try a lot of stuff. Is my expectation over the next couple weeks with the new pieces that they have. I didn't expect them to do this, though. I'll be honest.
Joe Mazzulla's in the lab.
Evidently. Kudos, Celtics. Y'all are fun. We have the Heat lineup as well. Mitchell, Powell, Larson, Wiggins, Adebayo. Nothing wild there. Fully what we were expecting. So I'm going to hit refresh again, see if we're working our way towards an update. 20 minutes and change to go until we get to lock. I just want to see the changes for the Pistons side. Who haven't we talked about yet that you want to talk about? I mean, I guess realistically, we could probably have a bit of a conversation about the second guy in ownership, non-starter, $3,800 Jeremiah Fears, 40% owned, but some of the lightest value we have today.
Yeah, I mean, the Fears thing, obviously getting Alvarado out of there, not a bad thing for Fears, but I mean, I don't know that. I mean, he's got to probably play the 20 minutes. I just don't know if he's going to be productive, and getting Poole back in the mix for any minutes is just another guy that can be pretty volatile in terms of what he does. But yeah, Fears the value. Like, I do think the $3,800 salary, the point guard, shooting guard eligibility as well, help you kind of make things work a little better. So I get why he makes lineups. I'm hoping that the stuff moving around makes me not need Fears as much, because I was getting him at 39%, the field's at 40. And I get why it's happening. I like Fears as a player. It's just they don't need to use a point guard, and they don't want to use one. So it's not something I want to steer into as much as the field if I could avoid it.
I'm so curious what they're going to do to like backfill a little bit here. $3,200 Jordan Poole in 14 minutes is projected for 7% ownership. You want to go down that road at all?
I mean, he'll get shots up, I think, for as much as he's out there, because at this point, after getting squeezed out of the rotation, I feel like a guy like Jordan Poole would respond by trying to chuck a little bit to get his way back in the mix. And frankly, that might make Jordan Poole play his best basketball. He's been terrible this year, but also you can make the case he's been so bad, he's probably due to play a little bit better. But yeah, I don't see it for Jordan Poole myself right now in terms of exposure. Again, before all these updates, I actually wasn't getting to him at all, and I have him as only a 4x value. So the field's at 8%. I get it. He's definitely direct leverage, at least theoretically, on Fears, but I feel like a guy that's been squeezed from the rotation, I'm not usually dying to go back to those guys right away.
Yeah, he scares me because I think he's live to play 20 minutes today, and I also think he's very live to never see the floor.
He really fell out of favor. Like, I mean, for a guy they were kind of forcing in different situations to just not play, like it does feel like he's swimming upstream at this point, but there's opportunity to go around from just getting back in the mix with no Alvarado.
Yeah, they've got a hole in minutes. I've got a sneeze queued up that I feel like everybody will feel if it happens.
Ooh, this is gonna be a big load of a sneeze. That's the one I don't want to taste of Josh.
No, man, this beak, dude, it creates havoc. It creates absolute havoc. By the way, Jordan Poole, 54% true shooting this year, 48% at the rim. No wonder he fell out of favor.
Yeah, he stings. I mean, he's not shooting well from anywhere. And then you watch him and he's just still bad Jordan Poole, but with less, confidence on his favor. But the good news is he got paid a bunch. And the sad news for Jordan Poole, I know you don't watch the social media clips as much, but like kids keep asking Jordan Poole about how it like getting punched in the face and stuff, it feels like, or at least there's one clip that's circulated a bunch of times. It's like, oh man, poor Jordan Poole's gonna have to answer this for the rest of his life because that's how basketball goes.
He should be allowed to punch that kid in the face.
I mean, it's a life lesson in there somewhere.
I know I deserved it if he punched me in the face when I was a kid and I asked him that question. I think my dad would get it. He'd be like, yeah, that was probably fine. Isaiah Stewart, third highest point per dollar option on the slate at 4,900. Paul Reed now, the fourth best point per dollar option. So we've got center Ariel Hukporti as the number one point per dollar option on the slate at flat 3K. Center Mitchell Robinson, his teammate, same thing at 4,300. Beef Stew with the power forward center eligibility at 4,900. And then Paul Reed, his teammate, as the fourth best. 2 Knicks, 2 Pistons, the 4 best value plays of the day, and they all play each other, and they all play the same position, save for Beef Stew getting a power forward eligibility. That, my friends, is a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it's a really wacky situation. I mean, I don't know.
You want to hear the ownership on these guys now?
Yeah, well, let's give it to the people.
30% Hukporti, 58 Mitchell Robinson, 35 Beef Stew, 15 Paul Reed. Jeremiah Fears down to 29. Pistons will start Cunningham, Robinson, Thompson, Harris, Stewart.
Yeah, Paul Reed is only 2 points off in projection for me from Beef Stew because I got Beef Stew a little bit low, Paul Reed a little bit high. I don't love that. I feel like him not starting, especially, like I really wanted a Paul Reed start to have any sort of hope that he could be out there because he's not going to close. Like he never closes when you have when you have Isaiah Stewart out there. I'll play Paul Reed with the field. I worry about him. Honestly, even more than Hukporti, because like it just like you could play Stewart 38 minutes. They do that sometimes. Like they do. They love Isaiah Stewart.
Would you rather play Paul Reed or Ariel Hukporti?
Hukporti, I think, because at least you're getting direct leverage on the chalkiest player on the slate there. And Mitchell Robinson, all the blocks that he does get, he comes with the cost potentially of foul trouble if things do run bad there. So Stewart, I just like. If he gets in foul trouble, he just always gets back on the court. It's like some guys never get on the court when there's foul trouble and shit. It just ruins their day. I feel like Isaiah Stewart, you just can't avoid. He just gets on the court no matter what the situation is.
By the way, Luka Garza, 4,400 center option, now 4% owned. We do have him with a bit of positive leverage, but from a point per dollar standpoint, he is behind the line quite a bit for all those other guys that we just mentioned. Did we have anything else that we need to touch on based? Oh, I know what we need to do. Boop, props tool. Got to check and see what's in there right now. Absolutely need to find out after that most recent projections update if we've got anything standing out. First one on the list, over 4.5 rebounds for Cade Cunningham. Number one, if you're looking at just our projections. Johnny Furphy's got an over 5.5 rebounds as well. Trying to see if we've got anybody that was relevant for that news, but it's possible these markets are still coming back up. If I add in a little bit of the market, take a little bit of the bite out of it. Do we keep Cade? We do. Under 4.5 rebounds for Zach LaVine. Ugh. What a terrible number to see. What a unfun bet to sweat if that dude's sitting at 4 at like sometime in the fourth quarter and you got to watch that shit. Oh my gosh. I would hate winning it would be so appealing. That strikes me as like he catches some random rebound that just flies directly to him with like 8 seconds left in a 28-point game. But it is also the 4th highest EV number in the prop tool. Maybe you don't like that. So you go up to the top bar and you click on Clippers and Sacramento. You scroll down to Zach LaVine, and maybe you just knock that rebound rate up a notch and make that bad boy go away because you don't want to get his under. And just that little notch took it down to just a 2% EV. You could feel a little bit better about it. Maybe you dug into those rates. You can do that. You can tweak all of these rates manually if you want to and get a different look at all of the bets. And the easiest way for you to get the props tool is to click the link in the description and use the promo code PROP. The weekly prop package is only $1 with this promo code. And you are about to see Greg Ehrenberg walk through this tool for a bit after we end live before lock. Now's the time to do it, folks. Get on in. Tool's great. Lofty's having great results. I know that. He's been tweeting them out. Greg's been deep diving this prop tool throughout this entire week. You guys have been seeing him do that after this show, and that's not changing today. I want to see our optimal now. And if we moved around any of the weird value dudes, I don't want to see 2 of these guys showing up. Oh, it's there now. Cade Cunningham, Jeremiah Fears, Jaylen Brown, Beef Stew, Mitchell Robinson, KPJ, Mikal Bridges, Ariel Huckporty.
I lost a lot of Mitchell Robinson from this update. Like I'm down to 55%. I was getting him in 90, so I think just the Detroit value opening up more. I'm now not as concentrated there, but that's a big shift for me because I really do in my brain. I'm like Mitchell Robinson, first value play in, and now the ownership is high enough, and you have enough pivot points to go to that. Yeah, I'll be with the field, but yeah, I thought he was like again almost a lock button play when we started the show, and not so much now.
Jalen Brunson now 26% owned. Jordan Clarkson now 25% owned. 21 minutes, 5x value. We didn't really talk about him. Micah Potter available to play. Jordan Clarkson, shooting guard, small forward eligible, 3,500. Is this a guy on your radar now? We didn't really talk about him much.
No, Clarkson's a guy I just have not gotten much of this year just because of the fact he's producing so poorly at 0.74 fantasy points per minute. The shooting has also been bad at 53.5% true shooting. Fact he's getting 19 minutes, that does look better. And this is really one thing that I always kind of take note of is like there are guys like Jay Huff tonight where it's like this is sort of his swan song where it's like, okay, for a guy that's probably shouldn't have been starting playing as much minutes as he did. Not that Clarkson's the same as Jay Huff, but like Clarkson's minutes when Alvarado's in could go down a little bit, or at the very least his priority in the pecking order, I think, should go down a good amount here. So maybe he chucks a little bit more. I think like, I don't mind the Fields 15 and change % ownership, but I'm not there at all. Clarkson is just not a guy I haven't gotten even once on the slate this year.
That's a bit more ownership than I was expecting to see. I gotta be honest. I wish Diawara had any ability to play more minutes than he seems to ever be able to play, because I think he would be an interesting pivot to Clarkson. I just don't think he's going to be out there enough. Josh Hart went up to 20% ownership. I like him a little bit more than the ownership is showing still.
Yeah, I liked Hart before we got OG out. So for Hart now, my exposure, not crazy high. I'm just with the field at, I guess, a little bit above, getting 25%, field to 21. But yeah, Hart, I think, definitely a winner from getting Towns out alone is probably going to help him out a little bit, just slightly more potential rebounds floating around out there. But now getting OG out, I don't think he's a smash play. I kind of thought he'd come up more for me, but getting 25%, I think is more than good enough.
Most of the effects of what just happened aren't huge on the FanDuel side. Beef Stew is about 25% owned. Paul Reed is 7 as just a center. So nothing too crazy here. We're still getting quite a bit of Mitchell Robinson at 4,300. He is the breakaway center. But the effect for FanDuel is much more muted for the news that we just got in comparison. Got a super chat here as well. Go ahead.
No, it's just like noteworthily so. I mean, Beef Stew, 24% optimal rate. Like I think you just mentioned, ownership's at 25%. But like for DraftKings, I feel like that was like a slate shifting series of injuries that just occurred. And for FanDuel, it kind of all looks the same that did before.
Nicholas had the super chat. I don't know why I typed in Orlando there. That's really weird. I was looking for Portland. Typed in the wrong team. Love the show. Lean on Denny. We could start there. I don't have much of a lean on Denny right now. Been in and out battling this back issue. Well, any thoughts on Denny? Have you looked into that at all?
No, I mean, I haven't. I assumed that he was going to be playing regularly when he got back in, then missing the game. I mean, I think you've talked about this before, but like back injury is probably one of the more volatile injuries to have just because it can flare up out of nowhere. It can flare up randomly, too, where it's not even like you did something. It just kind of happened. So hard to predict even more than the usual injuries, but I would hope he goes, but if he doesn't, definitely these guys look better, but getting Scoot in really mutes that effect a little bit more than it would have previously.
And then thoughts on having Sharp and Kamara in my lineup in a nice matchup. I would only be doing that if Denny is not playing. I do not like that if Denny is in. Kamara is only a 3% optimal guy. Sharp seems fine. We've got some positive leverage on him. I wouldn't want that pairing specifically if both guys were in, but if you like late swap to that at some point in time, or even if you just maintain it with the goal of late swapping it out by the time you get to that game, I think that's fine. I don't love that start though.
No,
I don't need that. Kamara's not that guy for me.
They're not. I mean, they're expensive. Like they're not. But DraftKings, late slate, and FanDuel, like they're pretty pricey. So, like I think you need Denny to be out to play those guys. And even if Denny were out, just getting Scoot in, even if it's going to be 14 minutes, it hurts these guys enough. I'm not. That guy's crazy about Portland. It's a high total for Portland. I guess maybe that's part of why.
We have reached the time now to steal Eric's gimmick. Heyo, nuke of the night time. I pulled a Jim Levinstein, went a little early there, but we got back. Chris Spags, who is your nuke of the night?
Oh man, I feel like I had stronger beliefs on this before the most recent update. Like everything got flattened out for me in such an appreciable way that I have nobody above 55% now. I'm gonna sort by ownership here to see who would give me my biggest lean. I guess relative to the field, Micah Potter is like I'm just not. I have no brave stance. No, fuck. I can't go right. Ryan Rollins is on the slate. Ryan Rollins, I got him in 40% of my lineups right now. The field's at 30, so that's not a brave stand by any stretch. But on a 4-game slate, who do you need? You need a guy with some length. You need a guy, not a lot of girth on Ryan Rollins. He's mostly a pencil kind of guy. But I do think for Ryan Rollins, the upside's there. Getting Kuzma out. I still worry about KPJ, but I'm playing Ryan Rollins above the field. Well, how about you, Josh?
Well, it's definitely not Micah Potter. I can tell you that much. What in the world were you about to do before you went to Ryan Rollins? We're going to pretend. I'm going to wave a wand. We'll pretend like that didn't happen. I will stick with your team, and I will also stick with a guy you mentioned earlier. Give me Andrew Nembhard here. 7,300. This is not a real Milwaukee Bucks team. Benedict Mathurin not going to be on the floor. Aaron Nesmith is a guy that's pulling a little bit more ownership in this spot. Does make me a little bit nervous because we've got some positive leverage on Pascal Siakam as well, but they don't seem to be leaning on TJ McConnell as much this year. And by leaning on him, I mean he's playing like 2, 3, 4 minutes less than he typically does. I think that's a benefit. I like the spot. He is our 4th highest positive leverage option. Andrew Nembhard, come on down.
Yeah, I didn't boost him or anything, so I'm gonna be lower than the field on him. Yeah, I am gonna be a little bit lower in the field. I'm getting 11%, Fields at 14. But I like Nembhard. I do think he has a pretty big ceiling that we've seen in games with Mathurin, and really just getting Mathurin off. I think in some respects, getting rid of Mathurin was kind of a cosign on how Nembhard has played because these two guys have in the past kind of went back and forth. Obviously, they also wanted Zubac so bad they were willing to give up almost anything for that. But I think Nembhard, it's a pretty big sign that the Pacers trust him and want to give him more usage, I think.
I think they were more than happy to get rid of the slightly rich man's Cam Thomas.
That's rough. That's rough.
I'm just saying. They chose not to pay him.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, Mathurin has decided playoff games, to his credit. Like, he's been a deciding force for the Pacers last year in a few games during that playoffs. That's cruel to compare him to Cam Thomas, who might not even have a job.
Yeah. Anywho, sorry, Ben. Didn't mean to do you like that. Go Andrew Nemhard. We've got 3.5 minutes before we get to lock. One last reminder for you guys to hit the like button. And don't forget, Greg Ehrenberg is going to be here imminently. Let's take a look at your final exposures here. Who's standing out? Did you get more of anybody that you weren't expecting? Did you get much less than anybody that you weren't expecting? Anything coming out that you did not anticipate or that we did not talk about?
Brunson came up a good amount for me, ending up here with about 45%, Fields at 24. So actually, I guess relative to ownership, that could have been a nuke of the night play. But I'm actually playing more Brunson than Ryan Rollins. So the fact that we got another Nick out with Anunoby helped out the Brunson projection enough for me that he's a guy that I think is, to me, should be like half my lineups kind of play.
Can't say I'm mad at that one. We have a super chat from Balmer. Reed and Huck Porty or Garza and Beef Stew for DraftKings single entry?
Reed and Huck Porty, I think, for me.
Yeah, I think so too. Garza's just not picking up any love here, and the Reed Huck Porty side is a much more popular option from an optimal rate perspective. Oh, there's one thing that we can do right now. Spags, tell the people where to find you.
Oh, well, I mean, you can find me every day on my Splash Play channels, one for NFL, one for NBA at Splash Play Pod at Splash Play Bets. Tomorrow, I'll be on the NBA Live Before Lock with usually EMAC. I think that'll still be the case on Saturdays. So join me there. And I now, Josh, you can promote me alongside everybody. I've got a Tails package up where you're getting my NBA data, all the stuff I've built out with Claude. You can now get that on Tails for actually cheaper than I charge through YouTube. So check that out. Search for Chris Spags on Tails, and you get access to all the data that I churn out every day on my splashplaypodcast.com site. And glad to be alongside luminaries like Josh, like Greg, like Ben Rasa, not like Eric Lindquist on Tails.
Shots fired. Also hanging out with guys like Parlay Panda. You can't beat it. I love this slate. I wish they would have included those 6 or the 10 o'clock games. Having the Kawhi experience as a late night ownership hold would have been really fun for this one. But unfortunately, we had that ripped from our fingers. Malakar says, don't sleep on Sasser. Marcus Sasser currently projected for 9 minutes. I think we're asleep, brother. I think we took like 4 Ambien. Okay. By the way, now that I said that, you know what Marcus Sasser's doing today. Cade's going to get the sniffles or the in 4 minutes. Sasser's going to have 1,000.
He really did. Sasser dicked my lineup so bad the other night. Like I would not go back there, but that is the kind of thing everybody will think that played Sasser last game. So that's exactly how it goes. He'll go nuts today.
I don't want to put too much negative juju on him. Otherwise, he really is going to get way more minutes than we would like. But I don't think he's in the mix today. But you know, I have definitely spoken that shit into existence for countless players on this show over the past few months. No reason to stop now. Shout out Marcus Sasser for you, Malakar. I hope you played him. I live in the D. I don't think you should tell people in chat that, brother. I don't know about you. For like multiple reasons. I would never want people to know I lived in Detroit.
Yeah.
And I'm not even, and we haven't even gotten into the euphemism part of this one.
I think it's not your least favorite Michigan city from what I recall.
Yeah, that's true too. To be fair, at least you didn't accidentally type on. That would have been a much worse sentence. A significantly worse sentence. The slate is locked, though, and we are going out with a bit of a bang. So here comes Greg Ehrenberg to bang you guys with the prop tool. Enjoy it, folks. Live after lock is now. What up, Greg?
Yeah, I don't know if that's what I'm going to be doing to everybody. I don't know if I'm going to be banging them with a prop tool for the next 30 minutes or whatever. So might go a little bit shorter for today just because the entire slate locks in 30 minutes. But if you guys have, additional questions, like a couple days ago, we went for like an hour and 15 minutes and ended up going long. So if you guys do want to hang out with me and have more questions, we could definitely hang out and talk more as well. Also, I enjoy that on every show within our kind of circle, Eric catches strays no matter what. It's just this unavoidable. It's this unavoidable thing that Eric gets hit by stray bullets. Usually he appears when it happens, but I do like that. That's a maintained tradition over the years.
It's like a verbal
like Joe Hendry
at this point. It's like yeah, or if you say his name, he'll appear. But yeah, I think it's just like there's some dead air. Let's say something mean about Eric real fast and let's work it into plugs. I think that's just good business.
It really
So
is like a vocal tick, like ums and ahs. You just if you got nothing, you just like, well, Eric sucks.
Yeah, just go there. I mean, if you guys go to my Twitter, my banner, it's Spags and I on an NFL show from like 2 or 3 years ago, and it's us undressing the Lindquist puppet.
Yeah, we got so much joy out of it too. That was when the puppet was new. Now he's old hat. He's been used up much like Eric Lindquist.
Yeah, I think that picture
On
is the
that
happiest
note.
I've ever been.
See you, Greg. Bye,
Bravo,
guys.
boys.
Spags,
Bravo.
Josh. Have a good
Later,
night,
y'all.
guys. All right, so fellas, we've got just a 4-game slate today. Half the games have already locked. There are no key questionable players, but you never know. Players could be unexpectedly ruled out. We could end up getting unexpected starting lineups. So, of course, we're going to be keeping an eye on any of those changes that could occur over the course of the next 30 minutes. But other than that, we've got some boost bets to place here as well. If you guys have any questions over the course of the show, you can either hit me up in Discord, whether it's a betting question, DFS, or really anything. If you want to know, if you want to know questions about Eric, you could hit me up in the Discord about that as well. And I'll be keeping an eye on the YouTube chat too to see what kind of questions end up coming up here. And yeah, also be keeping an eye on the games in play to see if anything crazy happens that's notable. But other than that, I am going to pull up DraftKings right now on my phone here to see what kind of boost bets that we have in play. And did you guys like what we did yesterday? Well, other than my computer stalling out while I tried to do location checks, did you guys like me posting the bets to tails? Did that make it easier for you all? Because I think I'll just do that again today if that was something that worked for you all. And let's see. All right. So we've got here a 30% NBA profit boost for a 4-leg same game parlay on DraftKings. We came really close to hitting another one last night. We went 3 out of 4 on our Mavericks game SGP on DraftKings. The one missing leg, Caleb Martin, we had over 2.5 assists. We hit on the Cooper Flag over threes. We hit on Daniel Gafford over PRA. We hit on Keldon Johnson over rebounds. Just missed on that Caleb Martin leg. But we did hit the 14-1 one a couple days ago. So we'll be chasing that again here on DraftKings. We've got also a Power Hour Happy Boost. What is this? For player specials in the Detroit versus New York and the Clippers versus Sacramento Kings game. Okay. So we've got that. Oh, you know what else we hit last night? Got a little lucky on it, but we had, if you guys remember, we had Tyrese Maxey versus Luka Doncic threes. Maxey went 1 of 9 from 3, but Luka only played a few minutes and got hurt. So we did end up winning that one. And then Anthony goes, all right, cool. If posting to Tails is easier for you guys, absolutely. When I place it on my phone, I'll go and throw it up on Tails, and then you guys could go ahead and tail it over there. Let's see what you guys have in chat for some questions as we start to get underway here. Let's see. And by the way, almost made. I still am going to. I still cover DFS on the show whenever it matters. Like when players get ruled out. I've been doing my late swaps on the show and walking you guys through what it is that I'm swapping to and what changes. So there's absolutely still going to be a DFS element to all of these. It's just going to be when there isn't imminent DFS news, we'll be talking a little bit of betting. Starting lineup for the Bucks, we've got Ryan Rollins. We've got Kevin Porter Jr., AJ Green, Jericho Sims, and Miles Turner. Let me see. Is that what we had in our projected starting lineup? Let's see. We had for the Bucks as projected starters. A little bit different. Yeah, because we had Bobby Portis starting over Jericho Sims. So this is going to switch some stuff up because Bobby Portis was somebody who's projected for 38 fantasy points and change at $7,500. Jericho Sims is a pretty poor fantasy producer, only 0.68 fantasy points per minute. Off the top of my head, I believe he's the worst per minute big man in the entire league in our data. But this is going to lower the minutes projection a little bit on Bobby Portis. So we'll be seeing what that changes with some of the projections here in a minute. But yeah, Bobby Portis is going to look quite a bit worse, especially at $7,500 on DraftKings. And then on FanDuel, what was the price point on Portis on FanDuel? On FanDuel, $7,600, and he was projected for 13% ownership. So we'll see what the projections update is. But my initial thought, this probably makes Bobby Portis close to unplayable. Let's see what else we have in here while we wait for the projections update. Yeah, I see some people saying Sims starting. Yeah. Paul Kesey saying that Sims had 4 assists last game. Good for him. He's still a dog shit fantasy producer, though. You look at what we have for him, once again, 0.68 fantasy points per minute. So, in the event that you're giving Jericho Sims even 20 minutes, or I should say even more than that, if you give Jericho Sims 30 minutes, he's barely projecting for over 20 fantasy points, which is just not going to look super appealing for a guy who's center only eligible. Let's see what else. Some other questions here. I'll wait for a projections update from Caleb. How much fears do I have? Let's see. What do I have from fears? I have 26% of fears. So not like massively different from the field. We haven't projected for about 30% ownership. And all right. Yeah, looks like those are all the questions that we have for now in Discord. Let's see if there's anything there. For Discord, we've got Sally Sal saying that he's getting to a lot of Kyle Anderson for tonight. So Kyle Anderson, let's see, what is our projection on Kyle Anderson? Well, a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, he is questionable to play, so you're going to want to know, just get confirmation that he's in or not. I wouldn't be too concerned with the exposure getting to the late night slate when so for the main slate, we don't have a lot of injuries to worry about. But for the 2-game late slate, we still have Denny Avdia is questionable. Scottie Pippen Jr. is questionable. Kyle Anderson is questionable. And that slate doesn't lock for 2.5 hours. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it until more players get ruled out and you get a little bit more information. It's a little bit early to be locking in late slate lineups. Let's see if we've got an update here on the Bucks. Not quite yet, but should be coming in the next couple of minutes. In the interim, let's go over to the props tool and just see what it is that we're getting for some of the top projected bets on the board. I would ignore the Bobby Portis one for now, just because of the news that we just got and it not quite being taken into account yet in our projections. Let's see what else is looking decent for tonight. We've got an under here on Zach LaVine for under 4.6 rebounds plus assists. Here's a general note on the Sacramento Kings. Why did they not make moves at the trade deadline? Why did they, or significant ones? I know they traded for DeAndre Hunter, but like, why did the Kings look at the roster and say, hey, we've got a roster full of veterans. We've got one of the worst records in the league. Let's just roll it out for the remainder of the year. And it's not to say they could have gotten a ton in return for some of their guys, but Domantas Sabonis, Zach LaVine, these guys had to have had some trade value. Instead, they're just going to hold on to them for the entire season and maybe make it a little bit less viable for them to tank when their team also kind of sucks. I don't know. That team is so horribly built. They built the exact same team that Chicago had already built unsuccessfully. Didn't work there. And they're like, let's bring in all the same players, but then be older, minus Nikola Vucevic, and hope that it ends up working out. But anyway, for Zach LaVine today, one thing that is interesting, no Domantas Sabonis. Let me look at some of the on-off court rates for Zach LaVine with Sabonis off the court this year, just to see if it's a projection that I do or don't like. So I'm going to take Sabonis and Keegan Murray off the court and see what LaVine's rates look like. So it is under 4.5 rebounds plus assists for Zach LaVine. When you take those guys off the court, LaVine, 3.2 rebounds per 36 minutes, 2.6 assists. So I'd actually avoid this Zach LaVine prop. I think that our projection on him is a little bit too low based on some of his on-off court numbers. I know that we're giving him a very low minutes projection here. We're only projecting Zach LaVine for 26 minutes, and that's one of the reasons that the under looks good here. Part of it is because the Kings, not really looking to win games here or anything like that. But still, with that said, 2 games ago, Zach LaVine played 35.5 minutes against the Wizards. He only played 22 last game. It was a competitive game against the Grizzlies. I just don't have a very good read for what the Kings are going to be doing with the rotations going forward when they're seemingly trying to lose but didn't make trades at the deadline. I'll just avoid this prop on Zach LaVine. It's a fairly low number. So don't really love that one. Let's see what else we have here. Johnny Furphy, over 5.5 rebounds. So one thing that maybe helps Furphy a little bit is Bobby Portis now coming off the bench on the Milwaukee side of the game. That should make for a little bit weaker of rebounding for the Bucks if we're going to be seeing Bobby Portis play a little bit of lesser minutes. On the Pacers side of the game, we did have Micah Potter ruled in, who was questionable, but we've seen Furphy play bigger minutes for the Pacers as of late. And he's also, a pretty competent rebounder. He's been starting, and over the course of the last month, right around 6 rebounds per game for Furphy. And that's where we've got him projected about 6.5 rebounds. The line also -108. That's pretty favorable from a line shopping perspective. So we do like the Furphy prop here on over 5.5 rebounds. So I'm just going to identify an individual prop here. Now let's go back to the Stokastic projections and see if we've got the update for the Bucks. Let's see what this is looking like. All right, we'll look at FanDuel as well as DraftKings. And I think I might have had the filter on and just turned it off. All right, Milwaukee Bucks. So we have now Bobby Portis. Yeah, the projection on Portis got completely nuked. So Bobby Portis at $7,700 is now projected for under 27 fantasy points. Under 27 minutes, which puts him at 33.5 fantasy points. To me, he's unplayable at $7,700. I want absolutely nothing to do with Bobby Portis. With him coming off the bench, sure, there's a little bit of extra opportunity for usage, but there's just no way that we could expect the same minutes as when he was starting, even with Giannis out. So I don't like getting to Portis today. I'm about to do late swaps. And what did I have of Portis before? I previously had 22% exposure to Bobby Portis. I expect that to go down to just about 0 when I do my next update here. On the FanDuel side of things. All right, what do we have for these guys on FanDuel? Go to the Bucks. We have here, Bobby Portis, same deal, $7,600, 31.5 fantasy points, 1% optimal rate on Bobby Portis. High price tag, ceiling price tag for Bobby Portis, minutes under 30. Obviously still a good fantasy producer, but it's not like he's a Giannis level fantasy producer, 1.17 fantasy points per minute. Bobby Portis is going to be a fade for me now. As far as Jericho Sims goes, because he's the guy who's starting in place of Bobby Portis, you guys will see really poor projection that we have on Jericho Sims. Jericho Sims projected for 15 fantasy points at $3,900 on DraftKings or on FanDuel. And on DraftKings, we have Jericho Sims projected for, 15.5 fantasy points at $3,400. And that's with center-only eligibility. It's also worth noting that with Bobby Portis coming off the bench, that is a slight usage bump to all of the other Bucks starters because you're going from Bobby Portis, a fairly high usage guy, to a very low usage guy in Jericho Sims. So as a result, all of the other Milwaukee Bucks starters, they're going to look marginally better with Portis coming off the bench. So if we look at all of the other Bucks starters, and then I'll start running everything through the Sims here to update my lineups, and we'll build out an SGP for DraftKings. Let's look at the Bucks' other players. We have Ryan Rollins projected for 42.8 fantasy points. I think I have a CSV saved with our previous projections so I could compare them. So Ryan Rollins, his fantasy projection went up by 0.5 fantasy point. Kevin Porter Jr., his projection went up by 1.5 fantasy points. So pretty big boost to Kevin Porter Jr. We got Kevin Porter Jr. up 1.5 fantasy points. Miles Turner was projected for 30 points. Okay, so Miles Turner's gone down a little bit, actually. We actually did lower the projection on Miles Turner by 0.5 fantasy point. That's interesting. I would have thought the inverse. And then AJ Green, we had projected for 20.9 fantasy points. He's gone up marginally, nothing crazy. But a decent boost to Ryan Rollins and a pretty significant boost to Kevin Porter Jr. in our projections from the last update. So with that in mind, we got these updates. I am going to plug this into my stuff and run everything through the late swap tool so that I could update my lineups. See if there was any questions in Discord. We do. Rabashua, I have a theory that Kawhi knows the punishment already and he's lost all interest. Thoughts? He's been pretty damn good lately. If this is Kawhi Leonard being uninterested, This is arguably the best basketball he's played of his entire career. Kawhi has been incredible over the course of the last month. He's really good at it. The question to me is just, is Kawhi healthy? Because he's playing out of his mind lately. So I'm not concerned about his motivation, because the production is what the production's been. It's been really high. I am a little bit concerned about him getting hurt and the Clippers just sucking for a lot of the remainder of the season. This should be fine when Garland's healthy, but Garland's been hurt constantly over the last couple of years. And obviously the same with Kawhi. That's the big concern for me with the Clippers. Just how healthy are they going to be? And then also, I mean, no Zubats. I think that Garland is a little bit of a downgrade from Harden. The team was already kind of, I mean, they were coming around, but overall, if you look at the record for the year, it was kind of a middling team. But I'm not going to be avoiding Kawhi in DFS contests, not while he's healthy. All right. Start running these late swaps. Who's going well so far? Who is playing well in the games that have started? We've got low-scoring games so far. The Heat up 12-2 on the Celtics. You've got a big start here for Norman Powell. 7 points, of rebound, and assist, and a steal in 3 minutes. All right. Knicks, Mikal Bridges is 6 points in 2 minutes. And 6 points in 2 minutes. Interesting stuff. So my goal here, guys, I mentioned it before in this late swap. I want Bobby Portis out of my lineups. I want him gone. So hopefully that ends up being the case. Isaiah Stewart, a good start, somebody saying in chat. NBA app might be a little bit behind because that's just what I was pulling up on my phone. It was only showing him for 2 points and no other stats. The games are also obviously very, very early. The only stat line so far that I'd say is kind of noticeable is that Norman Powell one, because that's a really crazy start he's off to. Jorge got a super chat. He says, I need your advice for late swap in the 5-5-5, a 3v3. TJ McConnell, Jay Huff, Pascal Siakam, or Randall Fears and Neesmith. All right, let's see. Okay, McConnell, Huff, Siakam, all viable options. Randall, very chalk. I'm a little bit underweight to Randall. Fears also. All right, I'm going to go with the first combination. Both of them are fine, but looking at my total exposures, I have more of McConnell, Huff, and Siakam. So I'm going to say option 1 for you there, Jorge. Option 1. And got to paste this in to my sheet here. Lakers, is Fears still a good play? Yeah, he's fine. I think he's a little bit too popular, but I mean, I have him in like 20, or at least in my last run, I had him in about 25% of lineups with him being projected for just under 30% ownership. So I have a chunk of him, but a little bit less than the field in my last run. We'll see how that changes with the Bucks situation. You never know how one player's role changing, a starting lineup change, could kind of have a trickle-down effect to impact like all of the players that you're getting to. But Fears, it looks like I'm going to be quarter my lineups, a little bit underweight to the field, unless his ownership has drastically changed since I last looked. All right, time to do the swap now. Boy, Heat up 15-2 on the Celtics. That is an inauspicious start to the Nikola Vucevic era. Not that he's even been on the court yet, but still obviously just a poor start for Boston overall today. Let's see if there was any other questions. Jordan, Huff's optimal rate. Yeah, let's see. What do we have for an optimal rate on Huff? We have Jay Huff with a 23.5% optimal rate. So he's solid relative to his ownership, no doubt. What's the main? Is it the Friday 8s? I think that's what it's called on DraftKings for today. That's always something I struggle with. When I'm picking the contest in the late swap tool, the names change every day. I never know which contest is which. Just keep the same name every day. I don't need some fancy naming for every stupid DFS tournament. All right, my late swaps are running. Cloud. Portis is going to close over Sims. I agree. He might miss out on a few minutes, but he might be overthinking it. Anytime somebody is expected to play less minutes than they previously were, their projection is going to come down. It's not overthinking. It's just kind of like math, right? If somebody's projected for 6 less minutes and they score about a fantasy point per minute, they're going to be projected for 6 less fantasy points. Just kind of how it goes. Well, I had a lot of my lineups change. So I got Bobby Portis went from 22% in my lineups to 4%. And I'm going to do one more late swap, and that will probably get me to 0% of Bobby Portis after doing one more. In return, I got the biggest boost, which this makes sense. The player where I got the most of in turn, I got more of Kevin Porter Jr., Ryan Rollins. Both of them came up in our projections. But then also Julius Randle came up, which makes sense just because he's priced around Bobby Portis and a similar projection. So I could see why it is that Julius Randle ended up showing up in more lineups. I'll do one more late swap now. And that should probably get all of the Bobby Portis out. And then after we do this late swap, we'll build out that 4-leg SGP on DraftKings for, we'll do it for one of the 10 p.m. games. See what shows up in the props tool. Also reminding you guys, as my lineups update here, that the props tool, it is still on sale for just $1. Sign up weekly package, head on over to Stokastic, pick the weekly package, and enter the promo code PROP when you check out, and you're going to get access to the prop tool for just $1. Take advantage of this deal now if you guys haven't yet, because it is going to be ending after the Super Bowl. So kind of your last chance to take advantage of the prop promo. All right, let's see now. I have 1.3% of Bobby Portis. So 2 out of 150 lineups with Portis. I'm cool with that being my final exposure there. And I now have 49% of Kevin Porter Jr. and Ryan Rollins. I have 40% of. All right, going to upload the CSV. My lineups are set. And we are ready to build out our DraftKings SGP. So close to hitting it last night. Let's see if we can do it again. Obviously, can't expect to win a like 14-1 or 10-1 SGP every night, but we did hit one so far this week. If we could hit one per week, then we're going to be looking pretty good over the course of the season. Let's see. Lucky. In late swap, do I do different runs with the sliding swappable profile? No, I just do balanced for myself. Sally Sal just says Mitch. I don't know what that's in reference to. Oh, he says, I know it's early, but Mitchell Robinson is very concerning. I mean, what are you going to do about it at this point? The game's already started. He's played 5 minutes. He has 2 rebounds. What are you going to do at this point? If he has a bad game, he has a bad game. The game's already locked. I think he should be fine, though. And then sniffs. Fears or TJ McConnell? I prefer Jeremiah Fears to TJ McConnell sniffs. That's my preference. All right. Let's go ahead and build out an SGP. So now that we've got our projections updated, I'm going to go all onto the Stokastic projections. And let's build one out for the Kings and Clippers game. The reason I say Kings and Clippers is because there's so much uncertainty in the Memphis-Portland game where we still have Denny Avdia questionable. We've also got from that game, who else was questionable there? Yes, we had Kyle Anderson questionable, Scottie Pippen Jr. questionable, and Denny Avdia questionable. So I'm going to look at the Kings-Clippers game. I think our projection should be a little bit more on the money for that one, where we aren't dealing with any players that are, questionable or anything like that. So let's go. Clippers, Kings. We already went over this one before when I first pulled it up. Actually, let me filter by just DraftKings. I'm going to avoid the Zach LaVine prop. I don't have a ton of confidence in the 26-minute projection. I think it could go a lot of ways with Zach LaVine. If he plays 24 minutes, wouldn't be surprising. If he plays 35 minutes, also wouldn't be surprising to me. Also, for Dan Koenig in chat, make sure that you don't have the old projections cached. So just refresh your screen, because if you're getting Bobby Portis in your laps, just means that you haven't refreshed the page since the projection's updated. So just refresh it, and then when you run everything in the late swap, it's going to take pretty much all the Bobby Portis out. All right, let's see what we have here. Maxim Reynaud. So as far as Reynaud goes, we are projecting him for 7.3 rebounds. He is the guy who benefits the most overall from the absence of Domantas Sabonis. And let's see, in starts this year, what has Reynaud been doing as far as minutes go? So in the games that he has played without Sabonis, we have gotten 27.5 minutes, averaging 8.2 rebounds. So pretty close to where we have him as far as minutes go. So the minutes, I agree with that. 26 starts this year. He's played 27.5 minutes. 7.3 rebounds. We'll put that in the maybe pile. See what else looks decent here. So I like Brook Lopez overs. Brook Lopez is just going to have to play Brook Lopez is very washed, but he's also going to have to play a bigger role for the Clippers now that they've shipped out Ivica Zubac. Like, for better or worse, Brook Lopez, he is their center for the rest of the season. If we look at Brook Lopez as a starter, he's been playing 24.5 minutes, averaging 1.6 assists, right around where we have him projected, 1.7. So I think this is pretty close to a 50-50 bet, but we're getting plus 123 on the over. So let's start with Brook Lopez in our SGP. DeAndre Hunter making his debut with the Kings. Put that in the maybe pile as well. Don't know exactly what to expect from him. We've also got Niederhauser. Niederhauser for under 8.5 rebounds for the Clippers. I think we're going to see a 24-24 split. I think that's what we're getting going forward. It's probably going to be 24 minutes for Lopez, 24 minutes for Niederhauser. What are Niederhauser's rates look like for the year? He is averaging 2.2 rebounds per game in 8.6 minutes. So if we're to say his current rebounds and give him, 24 minutes, it'd be like 6.5 rebounds. Yeah, I think our projection might even be a little bit high here. And we still like the under. So I like the under on Niederhauser. By the way, also from an SGP perspective, it kind of makes sense from a correlation perspective if you have unders on Niederhauser and overs on Brook Lopez. Just in the event that Brook Lopez plays a little bit more minutes than Niederhauser, Lopez's overs are going to look better. Niederhauser's unders are going to look better. Let's see. Let's keep scrolling. Russell Westbrook under RA. Boy, we're liking a lot of unders for the Kings side of the game. Well, at the very least, there is correlation there. In the event that the Kings are going to play their starters less minutes, it's probably going to be all of them that play less minutes. It's not like they're going to say, hey, Zach LaVine, you're playing 25 minutes, but we're still playing DeRozan 35. So there's a little bit of correlation from that standpoint. Let's keep scrolling and see what else looks viable here. So here are the guys from the Kings that I don't think their minutes are going anywhere. Nick Clifford. Nick Clifford already is playing, minutes for the Kings. He's a young player. If they do start tanking, which they really should be doing, like, Clifford's still going to be on the court. It's not like Nick Clifford is so good that can't play Nick Clifford or something like that. So Clifford, if you look at some of his recent games, he's been playing 26, 29, 34, 37, 30, 33 minutes. DeAndre Hunter could cut into him maybe a little bit, but still, we got him for 27 minutes. That's enough to get him to a 3.8 rebound projection with a 3.5 prop line. So let's go to Nick Clifford in this. Mike, yes. I am absolutely going to post this to Tails after we're done building it. And we've got 3 legs so far. So we have to find a 4th leg. We've got Lopez over 1.5 assists. We've got Niederhauser for under 8.5. Under 8.5 points. I think I said rebounds before. Under 8.5 points. And then Nick Clifford for over 3.5 rebounds. So we need to find one more line here. We've got Renaud for over. I prefer the over on Renaud's points compared to the under on his rebounds. We went over before some of the starts that Renaud has had this year. I didn't feel really comfortable with the under on his rebounds. Let's see. What are his points looking like? In starts. Yeah. I mean, if you look at Renaud this year, in his starts, he's averaging 11.5 points. That's right around where you have him projected, 11.1 plus EV on the over. So let's lock that in. Here's what we've got. I'm going to put this on my phone right here, and then I will post it to Tails, and that will end the show for the night. But we've got Brook Lopez. Oh, got to log in here. All right. So it's Brook Lopez over 1.5 assists. All right. Let me find the game too. Here it is. It's also nice because this is like the somewhat national TV game. So Brook Lopez over 1.5 assists. So I assume more people will be watching this one. Although the game is absolute dog shit on paper. Okay, Brook Lopez over 1.5 assists plus 123. That's available. Niederhauser under 8.5 points minus 124. That is available in the SGP build. We've also got the Renaud line for over 9.5 points and then Nick Clifford over 3.5 rebounds. Let's lock it in. Yep, all of them are available. What does this come out to? So with the boost, almost the exact same odds of what we had the other day when we won the Bucks one that had Kyle Kuzma in it. It comes out to plus 1430. And it allows me to bet $9.08 is what DraftKings has decided is the most amount allowed to be bet on that. All right, screen grabbing this, and I'm posting it to Tails right now. And then I'll check Discord to see if there's any other questions about the DFS slate or anything. If there was, I'll answer those. If not, I'm going to go grab dinner. Okay, and it is getting posted to Tails right now. Okay. So you guys should see that in a second. Send. There we go. Should be coming through right now. I just got the notification. All right, let's see Discord. No other questions in Discord. So let's do one final stats update here. How are the guys on the Knicks going? Brunson, 2 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. And pretty much everybody on the Knicks off to a slow start. I mean, that's a very low scoring game. 16-14 in the first quarter is almost over already. And then what about in the Heat Celtics game? Yeah, Norman Powell, 8 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. So massive first quarter there for Norman Powell. Absolutely nobody doing anything on the Celtics side of the game. Decent start for Vooch. First rotation with the Celtics, 7 minutes, 2 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, and a steal. And that is going to do it for us today, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. If you have not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and don't forget the $1 deal. If you guys want to sign up for our Stokastic Props package, sign up for the weekly package, enter the promo code PROP at checkout, and you get access for just $1. This deal is going to be ending at the Super Bowl. So also for Sunday, the Super Bowl schedule, we're doing the show in the afternoon just because we know a lot of people aren't going to be around at night leading up to lock, and a lot of us aren't going to be around either. So here's the schedule for the Sunday Super Bowl show. The next time you guys will see me, I'm going to be doing my solo lineup building segment from 11:30 a.m. until noon Eastern time. Then it's going to be Lofty and Ben on the deeper dive from noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time. And then finally, it'll be Josh and Spags. Or sorry, I meant to say Eric and Spags on the NFL Live Before Lock from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time. And that'll do it for the NFL season. So you guys, if you don't aren't around on Sunday because you're out celebrating the Super Bowl, have a great weekend. Enjoy the big game. And if you are around, I'll catch you Sunday afternoon. Later, guys. Good luck tonight.